I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address.
We're not just building muscle, we're building men. In the quiet hours, in the unfiltered moments, in the conversations that happen before the world wakes up. This is the Gloom, where brotherhood forms in the dark so we can lead in the light, where vulnerability is strength and leadership is handed from man to man, one story at a time. Our mission is to empower, exhort, and inspire men to achieve their best selves through stories of reinvigorated male community leadership. We bring you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, ordinary men doing extraordinary things in fitness, fellowship, faith, and leadership, because we believe that every man has a story, and reinvigoration starts when that story is shared. This is the Glue in the Gloom. Shout out to our sponsors, Avior Wealth Management, Liberty Core Real Estate, Major Team Mortgage, Exclusively Eye Care, Omaha Laser Dentistry, and McNamara Law Firm. We appreciate your support. Hey, are you the type of guy that likes to get up early in the winter to battle your jester? Do you love listening to people drone on and on and on about COVID in the gloom? Would you trust your vision to a guy nicknamed Cataracts? Well, if the answer to any of these questions is yes, fellas, you have bigger problems than you think. Dr. Cataracts, aka Dr. Wolf, can't solve all of your problems, but he can certainly help you solve the problems related to your eye health and vision. You will find many F3 principles throughout his practice. Check him out today at Exclusively Eye Care. Now, let's get back to the gloom.
We're live.
Hey!
At the Nomad.
Nice. That's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good. The intro. First time intro.
Yeah.
We got our man Biscuits here today. Coming at you live. Stripes here as another guest host. Got our man Plague, obviously. So let's just start out where we always do, man. Give us your EH story. Yep. Tell us how you found F3, how you got your name, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Always enjoy listening to these, and very excited to be the guest of honor today.
Yeah.
So I have a long EH and then a re-H story. So KOA was a college classmate of mine, roommate of mine. I'd say classmate, but he was in the smart classes. I just took business. Yeah, so he's been working on me for a long time, kept telling me about it, and I finally broke down, went to Paradise, and I wrote down my 2 dates because I couldn't keep them straight. So April 13th of 22, I go to Paradise, and it was the who's who of F3. So Yogi was on the queue, and then we had Wait Time and Bubbles and Grills and LPC and just all these names. So I'm sure when it got to naming, the names were flowing. Slow Pitch was there too. So did that run, and then I went a couple more times, but KOA was a Sarpy guy. I'm a West Omaha guy. Just didn't quite get the full indoctrination at that point. So kind of stepped away for, a solid 18 months.
Yeah.
And then, ran into the plague on the playground. Our daughters were playing before school. And he comes right up to me and says, "Oh, you're wearing a running shirt. You should come to this F3 thing." I'm like, "Yeah, man, I've done that before."
Typical EH. That's
right. Yeah. But I was on a little bit of a running journey myself. I was committed to running 1 mile a day minimum outdoors every day of the year for 1 full year. So I said, well, I got to get through this and then I'll think about it. And went through some injuries with that, was definitely in the sad clown mode. But then came back on January 5th of 2024, and Jump Street was the queue that day, and I was shocked. There's 22 guys out the first week of the year. It was a miserable day, and he had us doing bear crawls all around the armory. And I was like, what did I get myself into? But of course, T Swift was there. he comes up and gives me a sweaty hug. Somehow he was still sweaty, even though it was like 8 degrees outside.
Yep.
And I was hooked. So just accelerated from there.
I love it. It's been so cool. You're one of those guys that I just remember, like, from the beginning, as our girls were in school together, just like, okay, this guy, like, we all often say we all need F3, but there's some guys that I think F3 needs, right?
Yeah.
Like we needed a guy like you to come in and join our group. And I'm so glad you did. I would be curious. You had I think if I remember right, you had like an Achilles injury or something, right? Which is maybe even the genesis of what many guys know you for, which is the
Toga.
Toga master, right? But talk us through that. Was the 1 mile a day?
Yep. So I was doing 1 mile a day, and I actually had an ice skating accident that I messed up my knee.
Okay.
And because of that, I then altered my gait and messed up my Achilles, and was trying to work my way back from that. And even though I'd done that mile a day, I still was stepping on the scale at the end of the year, and I wasn't happy with where that number was. And you would, just kept loving on me, and anytime we saw each other, you were always open and available. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. But at that point, I was just going to come to F3 for a couple weeks because you guys are a bunch of weirdos in my mind. And then I'm out.
Not were. Still, yeah.
And, but then I got in, I got to know the guys, and I was just like, you know what? This is what was missing in my life.
Let's hear the story of your name.
Biscuits. So at the time, I was working for a company, an asset management company based out of London, and our claim to fame, and how I started every one of my sales meetings was that we managed the royal family's money. At that time, it was the Queen's money, but the Queen has since passed. So we managed the Queen's money, and I want to say it was LPC or Slow Pitch. One of them was like, oh, I've been saving this one, and it was Biscuits, like tea and biscuits. So that's where it came from.
Oh man, does it tell us how that felt? Were you like, I wish I had a better name, or what did you throw out? What name were you going for?
So KOA didn't really prep me for that side of it. He was just like, hey, we're gonna go run. I was like, hey, I like running. Let's do that.
Yep.
So I got to that part, and what he didn't tell me was that there was going to be pain stations and like burpees and all these things. And I was like, I didn't sign up for this. So I was pretty gassed. I don't remember what I said, but after I got done, I was like, man, why did I talk about work? Like, I didn't even necessarily like my job at the time, but that was just kind of what you identify as before you really realize what your purpose is. So, yeah.
What, I am curious, the ice skating accident, I never knew about that. And I'm glad, it's interesting you didn't share that story. We could have come up with all sorts of, we could be talking to Tanya, right?
Right. Yeah. No, we were, it was a birthday party. I was out there trying to get my, I think at the time, 6-year-old to skate. I just got clipped from behind by a kid, went down hard on my knee, actually like burst the Versasac in my knee. And so it was not fun. But I was committed to running, so I just was running with this balloon of a knee for way too long. That was, it sacrificed the knee, saved the child.
I suppose it works, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious too, because you're now, when I'm out there running, you're often, out in front of me in the distance, right? So you've done some running. I don't know, talk us through your fitness journey. Before F3.
So I was always a runner. I really enjoyed baseball. Baseball was my favorite sport. But at 15, my shoulder, I was left-handed pitcher, and my shoulder was pretty much shot. And at that point, it was have surgery or step away. So I chose step away. Little did I know that I would still end up needing surgery. So I was a pretty decent runner. I have my personal best in the mile is 4:19. So I used to be really fast. I used to be really skinny. I left school just shy of 6 foot tall, and I weighed 138 pounds. So I was a little skinny guy that could go really fast. So fast forward to college, I ended up having to have really major foot surgery, and it's called accessory navicular. So it was an extra bone in my foot. They had to take that bone out, and when they got in there, the damage was worse than they realized. So I went into surgery and they said, you'll be up and running in 6 weeks. And when I came out, they said, you'll be doing PT for the next year.
Wow.
So I had to reframe a lot of things at that point in my life. And that was back in 2000. And back in 2000, when you had surgery, you left with a lot of pills,
Mm.
a lot of pills. And if you wanted more pills, you just said, I want more pills. And they gave them to you. So I really struggled my first year of college, put on a lot of weight, got really depressed. Frankly, I got hooked on pills. And at the end of that freshman year, I sat down with an advisor and they said, Biscuits, you got to decide, are you going to be a part of our institution?
Wow.
And that was a wake up call, and had to really figure out if that's, that's the route I wanted to go, and flush the pills and never look back.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing. Why we do this podcast, right? Every guy has elements of their life like that. And I appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious so looking at all of that, where are you at today, or what's been the progress like? Cause I feel like now you're running halves, and the last half we ran together, I think I had to walk and you ran by me smiling. So
so coming out of surgery, the doctor said, you'll never run again. And I said, I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And I just I had to reframe it. And I think it was the push I needed that I didn't know I needed. And I didn't realize it until much later in life.
Yeah.
Cause I always thought, you defined yourself by your activities, your achievements. And when something like that gets taken away and you have to say, well, what's next? And it was just, can I run at all? Can I run a mile? Can I run a 5K? And then, since then I've run 2 marathons. I don't know how many half marathons, and it's just, it looks different. And, I still think that I can go decently fast, and then I pay for it. But just the fact that I'm able to get out there and do it at all is a big deal to me.
Huge.
Going back to that time when you had that kind of fork in the road of you're either here or you're out of here, right? So talk us through that a little bit. You said you just flushed the pills, so it was just completely cold turkey. Did you replace that with anything else that would hopefully be more productive, or was there, talk through that process, because sometimes it's not that easy for guys to just shut that switch off without going down a different road. So did you try to replace that with something positive? Did you have a big support system, or talk us through that whole process?
No, absolutely. No, great question. So coming off of that, so I grew up in the church. My dad's a minister, a preacher, the right Reverend Ritter, we like to call him. And I, like any kid, you don't want to be exactly like your parents. You try and do your own thing. And that sophomore year, I actually got connected with one of my dad's classmates from school, and he was a pastor in Lincoln. Started going to his church and really kind of reconnected there. I was in a fraternity and got onto the leadership track there. So just tried to get more active, because I had really withdrawn. I'm a fairly social person, and I had really shut everything down because I was ashamed of what I was doing. I knew it wasn't good for me, but I was so numb that I didn't care. So once that numbing agent went away, I realized how empty life had gotten and how much I needed those connections.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that's a great point to call out. It's fascinating to me, just little things kind of build up, and before you know it, you're really down a road that even though is not the right way you want to go. It's hard to get out of that. Kind of looking back to your journey within F3. So Armory So Paradise Armory, and then like, what was the rest of that like? Did you go Saturday, or what's been your journey?
Yeah, Saturdays I never really went. At the time I was still doing a lot of cycling, so Saturdays were reserved for the bicycle, and that was before Fury Road. I went to Wolfden a lot, and that was actually where I did my VQ. So a lot of the Elkhorn guys, T Swift and Greenhouse. And hey, they're all younger than me. I'm an Elkhorn High grad, back when it was just one high school. But one day we're working out at Wolfden, and Greenhouse is like, "Hey, you're doing your VQ here." And I was like, "I don't even know what that is, but no, I'm not. I'm just here. You guys do the workout. I just partake."
Yeah.
So then he told me what a VQ was, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I could do that." So yeah, we were off and running from there, and it was a blast.
That's awesome. Do you as you think about sort of where you're at today, do you feel like you've met a lot of those fitness goals and are kind of in a good maintaining sort of spot, or where are you at with that?
Yep. So I would say that when I came in, again, I was kind of coming off some injuries, and that scale, like I said, I was 138 pounds when I went off to college, and the scale said 206. And I just, to me, that was just like, oh my gosh, that's a huge number. Today I actually just stepped off the scale this morning, and it was under 185. Feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah.
I beat my brother to 10K. He's 8 years younger. Felt good about that.
Yeah.
And all things that I don't know that I could have done without F3. But I was actually saying at the Labyrinth this week that if anybody tells you that being a part of F3, your fitness journey is going to go up and to the right, they're lying to you, because everything ebbs and flows. There's times where you're just like, man, how can I not do this? I mean, I've done this before, and there's just some days where you're out of it, and some seasons where it's a little bit slower and harder to really feel like you're accelerating on the fitness side, which is why I love that there's all 3 Fs.
Yeah.
So with that fitness journey, obviously, and the leadership, you talked about your VQ, you're obviously starting to lead a little bit more. Then talk us through what made you decide that you wanted to take it to the next level, and wanted to be interested, and you became interested in obviously leading a site, and not only leading a site, but launching a site that was maybe not exactly where your first choice of sites, but it ended up being a fantastic site in a beautiful community.
So where the kind of the genesis of wanting to get into leadership came from was actually from a place where I was feeling a little frustrated, and felt like we maybe weren't leaning into all 5 core principles. We were kind of in the election season, and there's some things that were kind of making me feel like when we said open to all men, we weren't necessarily living it out just in some of the overt things that we were wearing or ways that we were talking. And I was actually at an Oracle beatdown, and I got paired with this guy, Tater Todd. I didn't know who that was. And
have to look him up and pass.
I have to look him up, right? And we were supposed to talk about something that was hard for us, and I was like, well, screw it, I'm going to talk about this. And I was telling him that I was frustrated. I didn't feel like we were living into all 5 core principles. And he said, well, do something about it. I was like, well, I don't know what that means, man. Like all these things where I'm like, I don't know what that means. And, he's like, well, change it, make it so that it's all 5. I was like, all right, how? And then I got asked if I would be interested in leading the Wolfden, and I'd had some conversations with Plague and some other folks about, what leadership looks like, and how you get to a point where you can really affect that change that you want to see. And, at that point I was like, oh, well, maybe I could launch a site. And in my mind, Elkhorn and Elkhorn High, the OG, would have been a great spot. But as it turns out, Anchor Point and the Riptide was the right spot.
Yeah. What a cool
kudos, Stripe.
What a cool community that you had a chance to launch and build over there. Like I think as that site has launched, you're sort of like, we found a pocket, it's like when you're, drilling for oil and you're like, we just found a pocket of guys that were interested in coming out to F3. And what was that like as you launched that site?
Yeah. So launching it with Zamboni, one of the things that we talked about was just really being open and making sure that we were accommodating to new men. So, in my journey where I felt like I had the fits and starts, I said, we just got to, lean in and love on them day one, no matter where they're coming from, what their challenges are. And, we were really intentional about making sure that we were open to VQs. So, was really proud of all the VQs that we had out there, all the EHs, all the FNGs that we brought in. And we just had a fabulous year and a lot of guys that, that they feel like that is their home, when it comes to F3, which is a great feeling.
That's awesome. We, so we don't get this chance too often, although, Stripes is trying to make sure we do, but when we get a guy that launched a site, we'd love to kind of get your sort of story, or what was the vision behind the name and the Riptide and the pirate costumes, all of those fun things.
So when it came to the core principle, open to all men, obviously was what spoke to me. And then the Riptide. So I lived in California for almost 10 years. And, when you get caught in a Riptide, if you keep fighting, that's when you lose. To actually get out of a Riptide, you actually go with it. So it fights against you as long as you're willing to fight it. But if you just lean into it, if you just swim with the Riptide, is actually how you get out of it. So that's where the Riptide comes from. Because I felt like I was fighting with where I fit in F3 and where I fit in this community at large, and just going with it and just giving in to where God is pulling me is how I can actually make it through. So not fighting it on my own impulses, but being open to what direction I'm supposed to go.
And you obviously had an awesome partner in crime with Zamboni. So talk us through what that was like to co-queue with him. Did you collaborate on the name together and the vision together, or just kind of talk us through that whole process and then just what it was like to lead with that hammer for a year?
Absolutely. No, it was great. So we talked about a whole bunch of different names. We went through a lot of different iterations of what it could be. Chat GPT was very helpful when it came down to it. Did a lot of the heavy lifting for us. But couldn't have asked for a better co-queue, Site Q. And I said we ham and egged it really well. I couldn't have done this without Zamboni because of my work travel. I ended up having to miss over 10 of the weeks that we were there, which is hard. You always feel like you're leaving your baby behind. But I knew it was in great hands, and I knew Zamboni was gonna take it and run with it. I always said, like, I felt like I was the logistics and he was the energy. So we made a great team and couldn't have asked for a better partner in it.
Well, I'll never forget the meeting that we had when we were talking about it, and I felt like I just ran over your dog when I was like, I don't think we can do it at Elkhorn High. There's a method behind the madness of when and where and how we launch sites. And when I launched Badger Point, I didn't understand that either, and that was a bad story too. But like, I didn't want to be that guy that was like, we want you to launch a site, and it's going to be yours, but you have to do it this way and this way and this way and this way. But I felt like I was kind of that guy. But you absolutely were open to it. You handled it like a champ, and I know it was obviously wasn't your first choice, but and I always told you, like, that was right in the thick of us, expanding a lot or starfishing a lot, and I wasn't able to make it to the Riptide nearly as much as I wanted to. But I remember always saying that if I'm not at your site, it's because I know it's in good hands, and it was definitely in good hands with you guys. So I just want to thank you for the way that you handled that whole situation.
Absolutely.
It takes a couple special guys to be able to launch a site in Bennington that aren't Bennington guys. So you should
it was tough putting on that blue, I'll tell you that much.
Well,
Yeah, some guys really squeal when we tell them the strategy for launching sites, but that's, you can go back to episode whatever number Stripes was, and we can tell that story. But so talk me through. So thinking about fitness, and we've talked a lot about leadership. We'll kind of come back to that, but I want to get your thoughts. So you knew a few guys, right? Sort of KOA lives in Sarpy.
Yep.
And then, we obviously, but I'm only posting a couple days a week. So how did you go about, like, did you know a lot of guys? Cause there were a lot of Elkhorn guys, I feel like, at Armory, or how'd you build some of those friendships?
Yeah. The funny thing is, in the beginning, I still felt like I was kind of just an observer. Like I'd show up, do the workout, and leave. At that point, I kind of had to get off to work. And I'd see these guys coming in from pre-runs, and I was like, what are those weirdos doing? Like that's even stranger than what I feel like is strange right now. And I was like, I'm never going to be one of those guys. And now I love the pre-run. I made so many good relationships on pre-runs with guys that I never would have come across otherwise. Gotten into Sunday run day groups that I never thought would happen. And just being vulnerable and listening and just meeting guys where they are. It's incredible how you can break down what would be a long runway to get to know a guy over a 3-mile run. And even if you're 3 words at a time as you're huffing up a hill, it's awesome how quickly you can connect with a high impact man in the Gloom.
Yeah. I'm curious, and you can say pass if you don't want to talk about this, but I'm remembering a pre-run where there was a certain conversation that elicited some feelings. But what I see today, like after a workout, when I see you and Toto at a workout, you're the first guy he's going up to hug, and it feels like that sort of brought you guys closer together.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you'd be willing to share. You don't have to share too many of the details, but I think it's a good example of how we push each other to just be better men.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it was a really hard run, and it's the first time that I've ever actively stopped on a run, and I was like, I'm done. I just can't do this. And at that point, Toto came back to me, and we finished up the run together. And I'll never forget. Bouncer was there, and he comes bouncing up as Bouncer does. Hey man, how you doing? I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I was ready to leave, and here comes Toto, and he just gives me a big hug, and he's like, hey brother, we went too far, but we need you here. We want you here. And I was, I went through the beatdown. I was pretty heated, and I, kind of kept to myself. But that broke down a lot of walls between Toto and I. We've had some incredible conversations since then. I love on that guy like no other. I want nothing but the best for him and his family, and I know he wants that for me too. And that's what's incredible, that we can be on such different sides of an issue, and yet we want nothing but the best for each other. So that was before I'd launched Riptide, and I was really questioning, again, where I fit in everything, and it really solidified that that this is where I belong.
Yeah. And then he went on to make you one of the most badass flags in all of F3 Omaha.
He sure did. He sure did.
But I just love that. It's this beautiful visual of what, if guys have ever read or heard us talk about Minivan Centurion and this idea of holding the middle and realizing that like we can be friends with people that we have different political or religious views from. And I think we know that in general, but then what do we do when a conversation comes up that pushes those buttons a little bit? And it was just this beautiful picture of how I think we're trying to do that in F3, right? Is like, and your response and Toto's response, I think, is what like F3 would say, this is how we're trying to be different than the world.
Yes.
Right. We're trying to be a little bit different. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
Would also love to hear, I know from a fellowship standpoint, we do a lot of like Q source discussions and poker nights, and now we do cigar nights and kids events. And have you had a chance to engage in any of those? And what's been your experience there?
Yeah. I've definitely done some of the 2.0 workouts, and my girls love it. They both have nicknames, so it's Bear for my younger one, and then it was Bubba for my older one. And she actually changed it. She said, "Well, if you're Biscuit, I want to be Jelly." So it's
nice.
Biscuit and Jelly.
Nice.
And I've actually gotten my dad out. He's Gravy, so we got Biscuits and Gravy.
Yeah.
I don't have the heart to tell him that I'm actually a cookie, not an American biscuit.
Right.
But that's okay.
That's
But no, there's been a couple of the lunches that I've gotten to do. I travel a lot for work, so some of that outside of normal workout time is harder for me. But anytime that I can, I do cafeteria. One of my favorite things was actually both types of coffee that we were able to do at Riptide, doing on-site coffee with my biscuits. And then also being able to reconnect with the Wolfden guys in the winter and kind of bringing that back together. It's one thing that I didn't expect from the Starfish was some of those relationships that were going to stay at the Wolfden. So I felt like, man, it's going to be a whole year before I see these guys on Mondays, which when I launched it, that wasn't something that went through my head of, what's that going to do to those relationships? So I loved being able to get together with them. I also loved on-site coffee because it felt like that gave some guys who don't have time to go to coffee the opportunity to stick around too.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. It's interesting. We underestimate, and in Free to Lead, they talk about the diminishing return to fellowship, right? So we get a group that's bigger size, but we underestimate then the guys that sacrifice, right, to lead, to say, hey, this was my home. I love coming to this site, but I recognize the need, and I want to lead. And I would be curious, what was your experience? Are you still friends with Ditka and T-Surf, some of those guys?
For sure. Yeah. So that was actually Ditka as a guy who travels a lot as well. So he and I, we trade war stories of the road and, missed travel opportunities and canceled flights and all that. So it's been great to have a guy who I don't necessarily see in the Gloom that gets what it's like both personally on your family. It's a grind to travel for work. It's not all glory and steak dinners. But being able to have that connection with him and know that he's been through it and there's other guys out there who have those same experiences. But it was something that I had to be more intentional about for sure to make sure that I didn't just let those, because you start focusing in on who you're seeing more frequently. So just being intentional about continuing to connect with those guys that were at the Wolfden or other sites that I wasn't able to get to as often.
Yeah, I love it. It's also cool just thinking about some of the like F3 in the wild or just like normal interactions, right? As F3 starts to infiltrate more communities, then I get to see you at like our Monday night dance when our girls are in the same dance class. And so I think of that as like just this fellowship opportunity, right? The number of times you've seen me playing Lincoln Logs with my 2 and 4-year-old is, while we're trying to have a conversation. But talk us through from thinking about fellowship and the family piece. So talk to us about your wife and the girls, maybe just names and ages and what's it like being a husband and a father.
Yeah. So my wife is Erin, and she knows if I'm needing or if I'm feeling that separation from F3. So she is absolutely all bought in.
Nice.
And I'll come home and I'll tell her about, a new guy that we got to love on. And she's like, that's so awesome. I'm so happy that you had that experience. And she's like, I can tell when you have those because the rest of that day, the rest of that week, like you're on that high from what you were able to give away. And she's like, it's also good that you got a good workout in.
Yeah.
And then my daughters are Brennan. She's going to be 11 here very soon, probably 11 by the time this airs.
Yeah.
And Briar, who's 9, and their nicknames are Bubba and Bear. Or Jelly and Bear. And I'm all in on girl dad. I get to be softball coach for the first time.
Cool.
Dance dad, and we've been getting more into family golf, which is stressful for all four of us, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, just and everybody's all in. My girls got their first F3 shirts, so they got Riptide shirts, and they can't wait to. My daughter goes, well, I'd like to wear it to the first day of school, but it's long sleeve, so I don't know. Like, well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. You touched on something that is, and maybe this is more just a curiosity for me as a guy that doesn't travel for work, right? But I do think a lot of guys travel for work, and so I guess I would be curious, how have you found, like, what tactics or lessons learned or things are you doing to kind of help keep the priorities straight? Because I can imagine that would be hard, and like you said, it's not all biscuits and gravy on the road there. But
absolutely. So, since coming to F3, I have found that I spend less nights alone at the hotel bar, just because I'm tired. And why stay up if you don't have to? But I'll try and be intentional about where I book my hotels, and if I don't have early meetings, I try to get out to F3 when I'm there. It's a great excuse to post down range. It's a great way to keep myself accountable. It doesn't always work out, but when it does, it's a lot of fun to meet new packs, see how they do things differently. I've brought back several workouts, especially from the guys down in Kansas City. A couple different especially core exercises that they do that I'm just like, hey, I've never seen us do that. I'm gonna bring that one back. So that's been good. And then it's such a cup filler that when I get to come back, it's like, man, I haven't done this for 3, 4, 5 days to get back in and just be like, oh, this is what I needed. So even if it's a late night flight, I'll be like, man, I could get up. I can make that work. And those aren't always the best, first F workouts, but it's always good to have that fellowship.
For sure. Well, I think you've even, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've even adjusted companies or positions based on how much they're taken away from family, right? So, I mean, I think just, keeping those priorities in the center is key.
Yeah.
What's it like to love your dentist? Well, you're about to find out, where healthy smiles go beyond your teeth. No drilling, no needles, and no anxiety. Relax. It's Omaha Laser Dentistry. Welcome to Better. At Omaha Laser Dentistry, Dr. Bullenparty uses the Solea laser, a CO2 laser that's used in all of his day-to-day patient care. He provides thorough exams, assessments, and treatments for things like snoring, tethered tissue, and extractions like wisdom teeth, as well as other surgeries. Check him out today at omahalaserdentistry.com. Discounts may be available for F3 Omaha members. Also, something else that I know is key for you is the faith piece. I would love to hear some of the backstory, like what was faith like growing up with your dad as a reverend, and just where you're at today.
So my dad always growing up, so I grew up in the church, was very active, did like all the youth council, did youth retreats and mission trips and whatnot. And every year we got to do a special thing. My dad actually led a bike ride across Nebraska. And so for 5 days, we would ride across the state and raise money for World Hunger Projects. And one thing that he instilled in me was that the church is not a building. The church is the fellowship. And the church is the people and what you're working towards, not necessarily a doctrine. And that's something that I really gravitated towards. And it was a challenge, like moving to California. I chased a girl out there, brought a different one back. And, when I was out there, it was hard being on your own and, trying to work through those formative adult years and find where religion fit in. And I did a lot of, Sunday morning bike church on my own, just
Mhm.
out in nature, and would, go through my what I needed for prayers, what I needed for devotions, whatever it was, because I just didn't have that community. And then fast forward to moving back here, actually moved back to the church that my dad started, and have been very involved there. I've been on and off of church councils, and it's great watching my girls grow up in the same church, but at the same time, it's completely different.
Yeah.
New leadership, new families. Coming back, I was like, man, this is the same building, but this is not the same church. But I love it, and they love it. So that's been great to
Mm.
just have that still be a part of our life.
That's awesome. I think you've also done quite a bit on the, when we think about third F, we think about like the faith, spiritual, but also like community service
Hmm.
side. And I don't know if you would be willing to talk us through like some of the different third F kind of community service
Yeah,
events
yeah,
and things that you've supported.
absolutely. So, I've been big into the American Cancer Society, and my mom's a two-time cancer survivor.
Hmm.
And one of my good friends is a director at Hope Lodge, and he was talking to me about how they get a lot of people that come in and bring food and different items. He said, but you'd be surprised, things like toilet paper and paper towels and just clean water is
Hmm.
hard to come by. I said, "Well, shoot, we can do that." I
Hmm.
said, I happen to know there's 3,000 guys here in Omaha who would get behind this, and so I just really leaned into doing a paper drive and water drive for the Hope Lodge, and when I rolled up with almost $1,000 worth of paper products, you should have seen the ladies up front, because I was like, I got a couple carloads full of stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah, whatever. And I rolled it into the lobby, and they were like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
But super grateful, and it was awesome to see guys just jump on board with that and really make an impact there.
Hmm. Well, and you've turned that into a little bit of a fellowship thing too, right? Because I think you get a table and have invited
Yep.
some guys,
Yep.
and I remember the one that I got to go to is kind of funny because we're sitting there, and the patient who is giving a speech happened to
Yeah.
be a patient of KOAs,
Yep.
and so we're
Yep.
all like giving him a hard time for like, oh,
Yeah.
he actually is a life-saving physician.
Yep.
But I would also be curious as you're thinking about like kind of how your whole story connects, because I just see like really cool like obviously God in motion and working
Hmm.
through that, but how do you see that like as you look at your life, like what are some of those key lessons that have gotten you to where you are today?
Yeah. It's for me, it's always that you get that opportunity to come back.
Mm,
Like like I said, it's not always up and to the right. We are born flawed, and we are given that grace. And one of the things that I just I want to impress upon new guys, because you come in and you're like, man, how could anybody love me? I can barely love myself.
mm,
And if you can just give yourself that grace, that's there's so much more that is out there for us, and it starts with with grace from within, grace for the people around you, and then just knowing that you know the story's still being written,
mm,
and it might be hard right now, but I just always feel that God is going to challenge you in ways that are going to help you grow,
yeah,
and you don't always understand it. And sometimes you're like, man, God, what are you doing to me? But you can always reflect back and go, oh, okay, I see now. Um, so, it's not always up and to the right, and there's going to be hard times, and, you know, sharing those experiences, being vulnerable is
mm,
how we show other guys that, we're here for you and we understand you. And I might not have the exact same experience as you, but hey, we're here to do hard things.
yeah. I love it. I think that's really really good insight. It's amazing, right? The number of times that we think it's like the last chance, and just realizing that it really never is, right?
Yeah.
Even the most catastrophic failure, I think
Mhm.
there's often a comeback. But I also love. I know we talked about being a site Q, and we talked about leadership a little bit there. But curious from your perspective, because you leading your family well, lead in the community, right? Have led on church boards, a leader at work, and have led in F3. When you think about just even that term leadership, what does that mean to you? What does that look like to you? How do we get better at
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
leadership?
To me, we're all leaders. It just somebody has to empower you to run with it.
Mm, mhm,
Um, I think my F3 journey leadership has come on the heels of me being my most challenged
mm,
and questioning where I fit. And I think that's a lot of times reality in life outside of F3 too. It's like, well, how do I make this better? Well, you assume leadership. You assume ownership of your challenges in your family. You'll assume ownership of challenges at work.
mm.
And if you aren't leading, you're not helping fix and grow things. So just knowing that it's inside of you and having the confidence to just step out in faith and do it.
Mm. It makes me think of your daughter Brennan and her experience with student council, right? Sort of this girl that when I first met her was really shy, and now she's like just blossomed,
Yeah.
right? But she took action, right?
Yep.
She said, "I'm gonna try this student council thing," and
Yeah, for sure.
which
For
is
sure.
really really cool.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that my dad always said to me, and I have continued to say to my girls, and you know, sorry if I've said this to you in the gloom, but man, you should be pretty proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think the more you help people internalize that they just did something that they
Mm.
didn't maybe think they had the capability to do, um, then they can own that rather than saying, "Man, I'm really proud of you."
Yeah.
Because yes, I am. I am very proud of you. But
Yeah.
if you're not also proud of yourself, like that doesn't allow you. It doesn't free you up to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I love it. I know when we were texting about getting you on the podcast, I know you've listened to a lot of these and maybe have thought about just your story and
yeah.
are a very naturally reflective person. So I'm curious, is there anything that we maybe haven't covered or gotten to talk about that you want to make sure that you share, whether it be pieces of your story
hmm
or
hmm
maybe advice or lessons learned for guys?
Yeah. I think lessons learned for me, and obviously I've talked about this. You know, be it at F3, be it in your work, be it in your family. Um, before you just quit, because there's plenty of times where I could have just quit and
Mm,
just said, "Not for me."
mm-hmm,
Before you quit, talk about it.
mm,
There's no reason to not share how you're feeling. There's no reason to not say, "Hey, I have some curiosities around this," or "I'm feeling really challenged by this. Help me understand. Help me, see where this is coming from."
yeah,
And that's what's really allowed me to grow. It's what kept me engaged. It's what has helped me build relationships that I thought there's no way I'd ever have a relationship there.
yeah,
And really has helped me accelerate because it's challenged me and let me know that there is there's good for everybody here.
yeah. Solid. I love that. It's really, really good advice. I think there's so many times where quitting seems like the
Yep.
easy route, but it's actually the harder
hmm
path for
hmm
sure. I think we have maybe reached the time in our segment here for Stripes' rapid
Rapid
fire
fire.
questions. I don't know if you've heard him do
I
one of these,
have
but I think he may even have the rules for how you're supposed to do these. But
short answers.
yeah,
Short and quick. Not long,
short,
drawn
quick.
out. They're designed to be quick answers. Okay. Some of them will
Stripe, I'm the
lose
son of a preacher man. I don't do short.
Yeah, right. All right. We'll get right into it. Site you've never been to, but you want to go to.
Canyon.
Canyon.
Huh.
Most memorable beatdown besides your F&G DQ site launch.
I didn't even get to do the beat down, but it was a Badger and it was like -20 wind chill. and Truly and I did 8 miles, and I had to get on an airplane
Oh,
like
remember.
90 minutes later.
Mm.
So I still had icicles even after a shower. I still had icicles in my beard. I had a beard at the time. I still had icicles in my beard as I'm running through TSA to make the plane. But that is definitely the most memorable.
Is that your PaxNet picture?
It is.
Okay. Got it. Nice.
F3 guy you'd like to get to know better.
Shania.
Hmm.
When you're on the queue, do you have a F3 name in your back pocket that you just want to give to somebody?
No, I should.
You should.
Everybody
should.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should.
Everybody should have a name and a loaded question
Yes.
so that you can ask the question
Yes.
and then lead them into that.
I take it Toga.
Toga.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
there
name
you go.
somebody Toga.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, love it.
What about your name? If you could change it to anything,
Ooh, Toga.
Toga. Same answer.
Fair.
Same answer. All right. The F3 hammer that you always try to avoid on the queue schedule because you know he'll whoop it on you.
Well, just recency bias. It's street dance. If I hear another bear crawl,
Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite exercise that you like to incorporate when you're leading a beatdown?
grave diggers.
Okay. And least
Ooh.
favorite that you do when you're not
Mm.
leading that somebody else makes you do?
Dark webs.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
And this is a layup question, another loaded question.
Stripes.
If you could launch another site, where would it be?
Elkhorn High.
Elkhorn High.
And it would be called the Trophy Room.
All
The
right.
trophy room. Oh, I love it. I think you did pretty good.
You're off the hot seat.
The thing we didn't talk about that I wanted to bring up was Toga. Like I feel so the number of guys that have plantar fasciitis. So if you have plantar fasciitis and Biscuits has not sent you Toga instructions or the Toga videos. So talk us through just a little bit. What is Toga?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Toga is building strength from your toes up. So we're all designed to have fingers for toes, essentially. And so your Toga is reactivating your toes and moving them independently and rebuilding the strength in your feet. So if you're on a beat down with me and it's over 40 degrees, I'm going to ask you to take off your shoes and socks and we'll do a little Toga.
So if like when I move my toes, they all move as one.
We got to work on that.
Okay. Send me the videos. I need to do it. But it
Can you
helps
help can you help a crushed toe?
Yeah.
We might need to get you hooked up with Gator.
We can try.
Yeah.
We can try.
But it helps with plantar fasciitis, right?
Yep,
That's
yep.
been a lot of guys.
Yeah, one of the things that can help for sure.
And where did you pick that? Just through your injuries
so
and-
actually through so he's a chiropractor here in Elkhorn. His name's Knock Knock.
Nice.
So he's been out a few times, but he actually now holds clinics in the morning. But he's a big proponent of Toga. And he turned me on to this group called the Foot Collective, and it is not a pay site for those of you who are curious. But I've gone down that rabbit hole, and I do Toga multiple times a day.
I love it. It never fails if I'm working out or running next to a guy that's like, yeah, I've been dealing with this plantar fasciitis. I'm like, have you talked to Biscuits about Toga? So another shout out for that. Where we like to kind of land with guys like current state. What are you going through? What do you need? Prayers, support, encouragement.
So I just changed jobs a couple months ago, and anytime I think you make that transition, especially I'm in a sales role, and you question like, did I do this for the right reasons? Did I make the right choice? Because that ramp up is, even though you're selling the same thing, it's always different.
Yeah.
So just prayers that I continue, and I've enjoyed the change, but just continue leaning into, getting up to speed and getting on the right side of the sales ledger with that, and also. Just prayers for our family. So we're about to go through a big family transition here. My in-laws are moving from Montana to Omaha. It'll be the first time that my wife has lived in the same zip code is her parents since 2005.
Okay.
So we've got a big change there. So just prayers that the move goes well and that we have a smooth transition.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious before we land it that you said that because I'm in sales too. I'm curious, has your sales style changed based on your F3 experience?
Yes, it has. I have been a lot more intentional in staying authentic to myself rather than being more of a chameleon and giving away too much of what makes me me. And it has absolutely solidified those relationships with
Works, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. You're like, oh no, yeah, if I'm just what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But people see through that, and just being authentic has absolutely helped big time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I just want to say, I don't think that you have bad days because I've never seen you not having this huge positive smile on your face and this aura. But definitely appreciate everything that you've shared with us. Appreciate the way that you lead, the way that you show up. Greatly appreciate what you and Zamboni built in the closest site to my own house, about 3 minutes away. And that's not why we did it there. But I was just there Monday. And even with Mayday on the queue, who did a freaking Murph that people weren't ready for. Yeah. But there's 20 plus guys there still. And you guys just did such a tremendous job with that site. And for what you were trying to make it as far as being, emphasizing that core principle of being open to all men, you absolutely knocked it out of the park.
Thank you.
And couldn't be more appreciative and grateful for just all of those things. So
love it.
Yeah, I might need to starfish already.
Seriously.
Awesome. We'll do a little Nemo. I'll start and then we'll end with you, Biscuits. Brandon Flehardy, 40, The Plague.
The Plague. TJ Butler, 47, Stripes.
Great
call. Ritter, 44, Biscuits.
And do we
butter them?
Butter them. I like that. Yeah. I like that. I also feel bad for your dad that he thinks it's an American biscuit that goes with gravy. But it could be both.
Right.
It could be both.
Yeah. For sure.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you.
On our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah. Every man's got a story. We've been broken, we've been bruised, but we rise again and we don't get to choose. Through the fire, through the fight, every man's story burns in the night. Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. On a story to tell, from the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah, every man's got a story. Every man's got a story. Voices rise like thunder, they roll. Truth in the pain, it's shaping the soul. Chains may rattle, but they break in time. Every man's story is yours and mine. From the struggle to the glory, every man's got a story. In the dark or in the light, we keep marching through the night. Every man's got a story inside. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop hill. Every man to the mountain.